Aquarius, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for September 5th to the 11th, 2016. I'm Athen, and this is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different. All right, so Aquarius, this week we have a sort of split week. The first half has the collectively easy aspects, as you can see here, particularly around Tuesday and Wednesday, when we've got the Sun trining up to Pluto and Venus sextiling up to Saturn. We'll also be in the early phases of the solar eclipse cycle, which started last week. Solar eclipse in your 7th house of relationships, of partnerships, new things changing here. And now it's a good week to cultivate this. And the first half, you could find that it's great to learn, try new things with it, experiment, and really see where things are taking you. Now, as we approach the second half, we do enter into the collectively challenging part of the solar eclipse cycle, the first quarter phase, where we can challenge ourselves to move those energies forward. And we also do have your ruler Saturn squaring up to Neptune over the weekend as well, which is a very important aspect here taking place. And this has actually been going on since November. So a lot of you have been hearing me talk about this quite a bit. And this has been perhaps the uncertainty or doubt about matters this year collectively. And so we'll talk more about this, but we'll see how to work with this. And it's really the final culmination now of what you have been personally and spiritually developing here about acceptance, about faith, about trust in the life process since November. And then, of course, we do have a couple other aspects over the weekend, which we'll talk about. So let's go ahead and look at how this week's unfolding. Again, crescent phase, early phase of these new beginnings that have been shifting since Thursday of last week. So this is the eclipse. This is the North Node. This is the fact that this year has been pulling you towards relationships, to learn more about relationships and partnerships and cooperation and others' needs, and just those interactions. So when you're approaching this with a willingness to learn, that's the best way of working with the North Node. Because the North Node is new. It's saying that maybe there hasn't been a whole lot of emphasis like this over the past 16 to 18 years, or particularly the past 8 years. And so now it's the time from this year. It started the earlier part of this year. We'll be here for the next year and a half of you learning about these one-to-one connections. So solar eclipses are associated with the nodes here, the North Node, new beginnings now, unfolding about maybe some new perspectives, or quite literally some new things unfolding this September regarding relationships. So with that, we do have the Sun trining up to Pluto here around Tuesday, Wednesday, which is great positive energy going into the 7th house. This is depth. This is intimacy. This is openness. This is a willingness to express yourself in deep ways in those relationships. And again, it's all interactions. For some of you, it might be business. Others, it might be romantic. However, it's manifesting, or just your everyday interactions. So yeah, quite deep, quite profound, great for that self-expression. And those relationships can be quite real. Now, along with that, Venus is sextiling up to Saturn, and this has been Venus in your 8th house and Jupiter in your 8th house recently, enjoying perhaps a bit of this deeper connection of life. Now, Venus isn't the most comfortable in Virgo, and neither is she in the 8th house. But Jupiter here is lifting it up quite a bit, and Venus is always about enjoyment. So perhaps seeing the values and being grateful for what you have in your life that is deep, that is meaningful, that can be connected in that way. And if it's in relationships, that does have openness and vulnerability and that deeper connection there. So with that approach, it can be nice, especially with your ruler sextiling Venus. It's just an opening for that. Maybe even too with home family things, maybe a bit of adventurousness could be nice as well. So that's the first half. Then as we go into the weekend, Saturn squaring up to Neptune is emphasizing this. Again, ruler squaring up to Neptune, uncertainty if we try to figure things out or try to figure things out, particularly with yourself, because Neptune has been in your 1st house, suggesting that there might be some uncertainty about who you are, or about where you're headed. The 1st house is about the life. It's the most fundamental part of the chart. And even too about what your needs are. What are your personal needs? What do you want? All of this is very nebulous. And it's actually a really good time to be present with it, to accept, to accept these things that might be otherwise creating the confusion. And this is also emphasized by the fact that the South Node is here, saying that there's some old cycles, some old patterns that have to do with your personal needs that may be taken to an extreme. So observe that, be aware of that, see if there are any old patterns, any old belief systems, any old yearnings even about what you want, about your personal desires, about your independence that might be unhealthy. And it's not about really doing much except being aware of it and accepting that you have that. And then from there, these energies will naturally go. And again, as you release them, not push them away, but allow them to go, it can liberate you. And this is the liberation right now with Neptune and the South Node very close to each other this part of the year. All right, and so as you let go of these old patterns relating to self, you'll find that that's serving a great foundation for your relationships of, again, others' needs and willing, hopefully willing to cooperate and have mutuality and all of this 7th house stuff. Now the crux with this, with your ruler up here at the top, Saturn in your 10th house, has been that this past year, it's been important for you to be patient and persistent with your productive life, with your career future, or anything that you consider your legacy, your productive things that you want to cultivate or might be working on. So that's the name of the game, is the patience, the persistence there. And again, presence with it. Because with this aspect, we might be projecting both with relationships and also with career, with Neptune. So it's important we're not projecting. We're being present with those relationships. We're being present with that career, taking things one step at a time, and assuming healthy responsibility. That's what Saturn in the 10th house is about. Assuming healthy responsibility so you can build this quote-unquote career area of your life one step at a time and into the future. And you could have some motivation and drive here to do that with Mars up there in your 10th as well. Good energy levels, collectively speaking. So that's the T-square. And I think, too, patience with the relationships. That's the Saturn going into the 7th. Maturity, discipline, patience, these kinds of qualities can be very good there with those one-to-one connections. So it's a collectively challenging aspect that has been in effect with the solar eclipse, and I think that's a good way of generally working with it. All right, and over the weekend, Venus does square up to Pluto. So this is that they're quite, whereas there was in the earlier part of the week, maybe a bit of harmony there with the deeper things in life. Over the weekend, being as present as you can with, if you're feeling any attachments, if you're feeling any wanting to control, wanting to possess things in your life, whether it's relationships, or it doesn't really matter so much the area. Might have to do with things around the home, maybe with your health, and maybe also with your adventurous spirit. So when it comes to those, it's about seeing where you might be holding on tightly, seeing if there's any old patterns, because Pluto's very much about breaking old patterns, and just kind of working with that the best you can. And as a result, as you have that sort of detached perspective, you're not too caught up into wanting to possess or own or control certain things, you'll find that it's actually quite powerful in a good way. It can be intimate, it can be open, it can be real and raw with those areas, maybe with those deeper connections, maybe with relationships, maybe with your home life, with your health, and with that adventurous spirit. Okay, so that's that aspect. Mercury is still retrograde this week, so there's still a lot to learn. A lot of what you're learning this week is about intimacy and is about openness, is about vulnerability, and all these things that Jupiter is helping you see and learn more about. And then Mercury does go retrograde back into your 7th over the weekend and into next week, suggesting learning about relationships. Okay, so over the weekend, learning about relationships, trying new things, again, being adaptive. That's what the North Node's about too. And going into next week, yeah, a lot of the stuff you learn will be applied as we go into the coming months. All right, so Aquarius, have a great week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.